Good morning and good afternoon, participants. Welcome to this webinar on national reporting under the Basel Convention for 2019. As Philomena, who's kindly helped us with the connection, has indicated, we will now start, and hopefully there will be others who will join us shortly. We will have first a presentation, which will be followed by a question and answer period. During that time, you will be invited to ask your questions by raising your hand using the button that's on the right of your name shown in the participants list. So we will, when the time comes, we will remind you of these instructions. Okay, so today the objective of the webinar is to give you a brief introduction to what national reporting is about, why it is important, and how you will be able to submit the national report. The objective is not to go into any detailed description or explanation of the content of the national report itself, but instead we will guide you towards some resources which you can consult in case you would like to read more about them. In addition, you may at any point, of course, contact the Secretariat in case you have questions about any parts of the report or its submission. National reporting is an obligation mandated by Article 13 of the Basel Convention. This article specifies all information that is to be transmitted in the report. In addition, over the years, the Conference of the Parties to the Convention has also taken a number of decisions whereby they requested the various types of information that is to be provided in the national report. The responsibility for submitting the national report lies with the focal point of the Basel Convention. And the performance, reporting performance is regularly reviewed by the Implementation and Compliance Committee of the Basel Convention. So why is it important to complete and submit a national report? First of all, the reports provide a means of information exchange to facilitate implementation of the prior informed consent procedure that's at the heart of the Basel Convention. And it's also a way for the COP to measure progress in implementation of the Basel Convention. As I've just mentioned, the Implementation and Compliance Committee regularly looks at whether parties submit their reports on time and the degree of completeness of these reports. Besides these important functions, the data in the national report also helps the COP and its subsidiary bodies in decision-making in various ways. There are some recent examples shown on this slide here, one of which is the evaluation of the strategic framework for the implementation of the Convention for 2012 to 2021. An expert group that is just finishing its work used the data in the national report to undertake this evaluation. Another example is the work on the review of annexes, also being undertaken by an expert group. And this group looked at the use of the codes from Annex 4 by analyzing reporting data to understand the extent to which these codes that were devised 30 years ago are currently being used by parties in their notifications on hazardous waste and other waste. Now, the Secretariat has also used the data provided in national reports to raise awareness about implementation of the convention and disposal of hazardous waste and other waste in its publications such as Waste Without Frontiers. Finally, as highlighted by the Conference of the Parties, the data in national reports can be used for monitoring of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think here it should be 12 and not 14. I'll now turn to what is meant to be reported. The reporting format has been adopted by the Conference of the Parties and specifies the questions and the specific data that parties are to provide. There's been several revisions of this format, and the latest significant one was in prior to 2016, but meant for reporting for 2016 and onwards. The most recent ones, which is relatively minor, was for reporting for 2018 and onwards. As part of the changes made for the 2016 format, there's been clearly marked in the format the questions that are now non-mandatory. That is, they are optional. And for all the questions, there are indications as to the convention articles or the decisions that underpin the reporting obligation. It's also important to remember then that to facilitate the work of parties and subsequent analysis of the information provided, the COP has requested that the reporting questionnaire, the reporting information, is submitted to the electronic reporting system. And I'll explain this a little bit more about this in a few slides. Now, the deadline for reporting is for any calendar year is in the next calendar year. So for the report for 2019, the deadline for reporting is 31st December 2020. Here are a few highlights of the reporting questionnaire. There are 7 questions and 9 tables. And the first 4 questions and 3 tables, as I've explained, really is about the type of information that can facilitate implementation of the prior informed consent procedure. What's also important to note about these questions is that these are the type of information that really are based on policies or regulations that countries adopt and do not change regularly. So this information is contained in the national report, and as I will explain further later, they are not provided on an annual basis, or they don't need to be provided on an annual basis. Parties are invited to update this information as needed. In contrast, the questionnaire contains information that has to be provided on the annual basis. And some of this is quantitative information, for example, on the export and import of hazardous waste and other waste. And then on disposals and accidents or cases of illegal traffic that happen in the reporting year. So, having explained what the report contains, I will now turn to how you can submit your report. As explained, the Conference of the Parties has mandated the Secretariat to prepare an electronic reporting system, and this has been now operational for many years and successfully used by most parties to submit the national report. The format that was adopted by the COP has been transposed to an online questionnaire. And this online questionnaire is available every year for parties to use. It is to be completed by the focal point. And what's important to remember, because we get questions about this, is that once you have submitted the national report, it becomes publicly available and only in read-only mode. So that means that if you're the focal point and you have filled out the national report through the ERS, and you've submitted it, you can no longer change it yourself. However, if you have some significant changes to make, you can always contact the Secretariat, and since we have administrative access to the report, we can make the change for you. After you've submitted the report, the Secretariat undertakes some quality control to look at missing or unclear information. And this has more to do with the quantitative information in tables 4 and 5. And the reason for doing that is so that we can have harmonized data provided in the reporting database that then later can be used for the types of analysis that I've explained. So you may receive, following submission of the national report, an email from us asking for some clarification. How do you access the electronic reporting system? Of course, you need an internet connection that works, and then there is a dedicated page for the ERS. At the bottom of this page, you will find questionnaires listed by years, because not only can you access the questionnaire for the reporting year, but also in case you haven't submitted reports for past years and you would still like to do that, you can always access them there. Again, if you already submitted the report, you will not be able to make any modifications unless you contact the Secretariat. The questionnaire for 2019 has been made available last week, and as the focal point, you should have received an email that includes the credentials for accessing the questionnaire after clicking on the link that I've just shown. And here you see a window of what this access portal looks like. At any point, if you have misplaced the credentials, you can use the account recovery functionality that's also on this page to recover the login and password. Now, it's important to note that this information will be sent to the email that we have on file for the focal point to the Basel Convention. What happens is that in some countries, there's a change in the focal point, but the Secretariat is not advised on time about the change in email address. So, of course, when you complete this fields there and ask for the credential, it goes to the old email address and not to that of the new focal point. So it's very important that you update this information when it changes. Now let's look at the key features of the ERS. Here you can see a page as it will look like once you've entered your credentials and access the questionnaire. And on the left side, you have some buttons that allow you to navigate between the pages and section of the questionnaire. At the top, you have a menu bar that contains several functionalities, and these are always accessible throughout the questionnaire pages. And then you have the main area corresponding to each page, each section, where you can enter the data. To fill in the questionnaire, you have several options. Some questions provide this multiple choice with conditionality, meaning if you press yes, a number of sub-questions will appear, and if you press no, of course, these questions will not show. Then, in some cases, you are invited to provide free text to describe, for example, national definitions or measures taken. Alternatively, in some questions, if you don't want to provide this in text form, you can upload a file that provides the similar information. I'd like to highlight as the case of and data entry into tables. And this is specifically important for tables 4 and 5 on the export and import of hazardous waste and other waste. Now, for adding data to the tables, you have the option of doing line-by-line entry. By that, I mean that you click on the relevant button and you will have a box appear with drop-down menus for each of the fields. So, for example, when you click on Basel Annex 1, you will have all the Y codes listed, and you just click on the right Y code. Now, if you don't have too much data, then this is a very convenient way of doing the data entry. However, for tables 4 and 5, some countries have hundreds, if not thousands of lines, in which case it's really not practical. So what we've done is we've created the option for these countries to import the data after uploading an Excel file. So first you upload an Excel file by pressing Choose File, and then you press Load File to import the data. For this function to work, it's important that you use the template that's provided in the national report, as well as format the data according to the validation rules that's also included in that page of the national report. Now, that might sound a bit complicated, but since we introduced this feature, many parties have been able to do this successfully. And in case you have problems, there's an additional option on this page that allows you to just provide the file, and the Secretariat will contact you later in case it's necessary to help you with the import. At the top of the menu of the page, in the menu bar, you have a few functionalities that are quite useful in filling out the national report. There's the Save Changes feature, and this is useful, of course, if you just want to save changes and come back to your report to finish filling it at a subsequent time. You also have the option to download the report as a Word document. And this is useful for parties to use in case they want, for example, to consult on this national report with other agencies or authorities. And they, of course, may not be able to do this because the credentials for accessing the national report should, in theory, not be shared with anyone. Then another feature I'd like to highlight is the Check for Errors function. So this is a feature that you can use on every page. And what it does is it highlights the questions for which answers may be incomplete or invalid. And so you can do that on any page. But also when you click on the Save Changes function, the system will highlight all the pages on which there may be incomplete answers. So then you can go to these pages and check within each page which questions might need an answer by pressing Check for Errors. I need to emphasize that these alerts are there to help you and by no way prevent the submission of the report. So if you have any problems in that regard, it could be because of a bug in the system, and please contact the Secretariat in case you encounter this problem. Some things to watch out for. As mentioned, there are a few questions concerning information that doesn't necessarily need to be, that doesn't necessarily change every year and therefore need to be updated. And so to facilitate the completion of the report for parties, what we do is we pre-fill those questions with the latest information available to the Secretariat. So these are question 1 up to table 3. Now, of course, every year, though, you have to verify that this information is still valid in case there's been a change in your country. Secondly, as I've already explained, for table 4 and table 5, if you want to import the data, you need to use the template that's available and follow the validation rules. A new feature that we've introduced this year is to provide Excel templates for table 7, table 8, and table 9. So prior to this current year, there was the possibility of either completing the table by line entry or uploading a file. But what we found is that parties would not necessarily upload a file using the same providing the same information as requested in the table. And that can make the subsequent analysis of the data more complicated. So to avoid this issue, we've provided this template and you're invited to use it. However, it should be noted that it's only this template or the Excel file you create can only be uploaded to the system. It cannot be used to import the data as for table 4 and 5. I think some parties get confused about this distinction and may be frustrated. So I just wanted to highlight this here. And well, it's something that we're working on in the long term to allow import of all the data, but currently it's only possible for table 4 and 5. When you've completed all the information that's relevant for your country, you can go to the last page of the report, and it's at that point that you will see in the top menu bar a button allowing you to submit the national report. The first time you click this button, you will get a message highlighting all the pages where there might be empty or invalid answers. So again, you can go to these pages, use the check for errors button and see if there's anything amiss. And once you've done that, you click again on Submit the National Report button and you should be able to submit the report. If for some reason this doesn't work, just contact the Secretariat and we can help you. So this was a very quick tour of the national reporting and the electronic reporting system. Now I'd like to highlight a few resources that could be useful to you. One is the ability for you to consult all national reports on the internet. When you submit a national report, it becomes publicly available, and that's the case for all countries. So you can check your report. The other thing that we have recently introduced is a feature that allows you to get extracts from the national reporting database. As I've explained, the information that's provided through the national report, some of it is entered into a reporting database, specifically table 4 and 5 data, amongst others. And so we've created these queries that allow you to look at this data more globally. And you can access this using the second link shown on this slide. Here, I'd like to highlight that for some countries, there's a feature there that allows you to look at all the years for which your country, or any other country for that matter, has submitted a national report. It turns out that in some countries, records are incomplete, and sometimes focal points would like to know when was the recent report submitted. So you will be able to find this by by using this functionality. The other type of functionality that we would like to introduce here is to look at, for example, all restrictions on certain types of waste provided through question 3. And measures taken by other countries in case you want to compare or use these as examples. So this can be very useful. And one reason we've also introduced this is because we get requests from journalists or scholars who want to do analysis and studies on the trade in hazardous waste and other waste, as well as implementation of the Basel Convention. I've mentioned the revisions to the reporting format for 2016 and onwards, so you can consult the relevant decisions. And here again, let me remind you that if you are looking at filling reports for 2016 and onwards, and those that are prior to that, the reporting questionnaire will be different. So it's something to keep in mind. The reporting questionnaire in the ERS is in English only. However, to assist parties in filling out the questionnaire, what has been done is to create a manual on completing the national report. And this manual is available in all UN languages. The manual contains the reporting questionnaire, so parties have access to the questions of the questionnaire in languages as well. On the web page shown on this slide, you can also find a manual for using the electronic reporting system. Now here I've highlighted a number of additional resources on not just completing the national report, but understanding the obligations of the Basel Convention that's on which information is requested through the national report. And several of these guidance and manuals has been prepared by the Implementation and Compliance Committee. And I'd like to highlight the recently updated benchmark report that provides examples of what responses if the national report would ideally look like. On that, I'll remind you that the report for 2019 is due by 31 December 2020, and we look forward to receiving your report. If you have any questions at any time, just send me an email at the address shown on this slide. Thank you for your attention. And the floor is open for questions in case you have any. To ask for the floor, you just lift your hand using the icon that should appear to the right of your name in the participants list. Thank you. So are there any questions? I don't see any. Yes. In case you're having trouble, you can also send your question to the chat box, and we will read it out. I see a hand raised from Jonah Oman. Jonah, you have the floor.
Good day. Thank you very much for this excellent presentation. I am not a focal point. I'm a DNA. However, I do have a question as to how does the Secretariat approach parties who have numerous years of outstanding reports, especially if the focal point has been changed recently? Are there any provisions or guidance that the Secretariat provides in that? Thank you.
Well, regarding the obligation is that a report is to be submitted every year, and the Secretariat itself does not have a mandate to contact parties as to the submission of their reports. That's something that's done by the Implementation and Compliance Committee. And so there's a program, an area of work in its work program every year that's approved by the COP, and it looks at parties that have reported or have not reported for a number of years, and depending on certain criteria, they may be contacted regarding their difficulties and whether they would like to submit a compliance action plan. But if you want more information on this, please write to me and I can direct you to the relevant person or place on the website. Regarding updating the focal point address, you can do that at any time by sending an email to the Secretariat, and we will take the necessary steps to verify and update. Does that answer your question, Jonah?
Thank you. Yes, I will follow up with the Secretary directly as you and thank you for your response.
Thank you. Is there any other question? I saw a hand, but not anymore. On the chat. Yes, I saw a question from Rosalind asking whether the presentation will be made available, and I can confirm that my colleague will send it to all those participating today. Any other question? I'll make one last call. Please, again, raise your hand or send us a chat. Okay, I see none. I see the hand from Anuradha Gwawali. You have the floor.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. I'm from Nepal, and I'm also not the focal point, but actually I'm working as a desk officer in Ministry of Forest and Environment. So my concern is regarding the reporting of data. So sometimes there are cases that we don't have sufficient data that we can report, and sometimes there are cases that the inventory of hazardous waste are not reported nationally, and so we cannot report them in the Secretariat also. So does the Secretariat have any programs or like any plans to support the parties so that they can keep their data of the waste updated annually?
Thank you, Anuradha. The Secretariat has a technical assistance program, and there are activities on national reporting in this program. However, if you have a specific country request, you can write to us, and we can look at how we can help you address it.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other question then? I see no hands raised. Then, okay. Then I hope the information provided today was helpful, and I thank you for your participation, taking the time to attend. Again, if you have any questions on the report, on its content, any need for clarification, do not hesitate to contact me. If I cannot answer, I will direct you to a colleague that can. And yes, we look forward to your national report. So on that, I will close the meeting and wish you a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Have a nice day to you too.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Hi. Goodbye.